These are the solutions to the summer exam from 2017 for linear algebra. So we're going to start with question number 1. And one part A is to do with matrices and one part B is to do with vectors. So for one part A, we need to determine A times B if possible. Now A is a 3 by 3 matrix, B is a 3 by 1 matrix, so A times B is possible. And for example, in order to evaluate the elements in row 1, column 1, we multiply row 1 times column 1. Row 1 times column 1. So that gives us 4, take away 1, take away 1. So the element in row 1, column 1 is 2. Similarly, we can work out row 2, column 1, that gives 4, and row 3, column 1 will give minus 4. For part 2, we want the minor element of the element A23, so that's the element in row 2, column 3, which is this element. So that means we need to delete this row and this column, and that will leave us with this determinant. And if you work out this determinant, 2 times 1 plus 2 times 1 gives you 4. The final part, we want to solve for x when A times x equals B. So here is our matrix A times x equals B. Now if you want, you could find the inverse of this matrix and then find x is A inverse times B. But you'll see here I've decided to use row reduction. So I've written down the augmented matrix. Remember, we need to get these 3 lower elements all to 0. So we perform row operations to get these 3 elements to 0. And once we've done that, we find that z is equal to minus half. Once we've found z, we can back substitute to find y. Once we know y and z, we can back substitute to find x. So here is the solution. For part B, we have vectors. To find A, take away 3b, we simply take our vector A and take away 3 times this vector. So you just multiply each element by 3. And then we subtract corresponding elements, and here is the answer. To find A dotted with B, here is A dotted with B, we multiply corresponding elements, so 2 times minus 1 is minus 2, minus 1 times 5 is minus 5, and 4 times 6 gives you 24, and then we just add those together to give you 17. To find the length of the vector B minus A, first of all we take B and we subtract A to give the vector minus 3, 6, 2, and then we find use the Euclidean norm to find the length. So we take the square root of each element squared, and you'll see you get the square root of 49. For part B, part 4, we want to determine a unit vector perpendicular to A and B. So we simply take the cross product of A and B, and we get this vector. So and then to find the length of this vector, we simply divide by the length. To find the unit vector, we take the vector and divide by the length of that vector. And notice that we can also take the negative of this vector because this vector is also perpendicular to these 2 vectors. So there are 2 possible answers. And that concludes the solutions to question number 1.